In this video, we're going to review some of the tools you have available within the Power BI Query Editor to transform and refine your data. We're going to work with some files that will need some modifications and transformations to be ready for uploading into our data model. We will bring in files by way of Excel or CSV files, as well as by bringing in an entire folder. In some cases, you may have several files that are all the same format, but are for different periods. And you would like to combine those files into one visualization. So we'll walk through going through that process as well. So let's get started with bringing in a folder that contains multiple files that we will combine into one table. In order to do that, I'll click on New Source, More, and Folder. Click Connect, and now I'll search for the folder I want to upload into Power BI. This folder, ROR Updates, includes the 3 files that I would like to upload. So I'll go down and click OK. Now I've already uploaded this folder, so I'm just going to cancel this. And when the file gets uploaded, Power BI will implement some steps to upload the folder. Here are the 3 files within one table. We have one file that for this household provides 1 month returns as well as deposits and withdrawals or inflows and outflows. And then the same thing since inception. And then for the period year to date. And what we'll do is we'll combine this data and create a table that will give us the output we're looking for creating a visualization. So you can see across the top, there's many different features or options with respect to modifying and transforming your tables. There's several options under the Home tab. You have additional options under the Transform tab. And then you also have the ability to create new columns under the Add Column tab. So as you can see, we have some blank rows. We've got some text in the middle of the table. Also, there are some columns within this table that we do not need. And to remove them, for instance, if I wanted to remove column 3 and column 7 and 8, I could simply hit my Control key and select each column I wanted to remove, right-click, and select Remove Columns. So that step has been completed, and it's a good practice to rename your steps in your query so the next time you work with this data set or somebody else works with this data set, there'll be an explanation of what has taken place with each step in the process of preparing this table. Also, one of the great things about Power BI is all of the steps we take in Query Editor will be saved, so that if we were to upload a new set of files in a month, Power BI will automatically execute all of these steps to complete the transformation of the table without needing to repeat this process. So we've removed the columns we don't need, and we would like to make the second row our actual column headers. So the first thing we need to do is remove the first row. So if I go up to the ribbon at the top, select Remove Rows, remove top row, select the number of rows you would like to remove. In this case, it would be 1. Click OK, and that first row will be removed. And now that that's done, we can go back to the ribbon, use first row as headers, and now the headers are promoted. The way I will address all of the blank rows is to go over to the last row, the net ROR or net performance column, and I can get rid of every row that doesn't have a performance number in it. And that should give me just the rows that I would like to keep. So I'll select this drop down, I'll remove all blank rows, and I'll scroll to the bottom. I'll remove this text, net ROR. I'll click OK, and now we have filtered down to only rows with performance numbers. I'm now going to change these columns to the proper data type. So I'll right-click, and for this column, I'll scroll to Change Type. This one will be a %. For these 4 columns, I will change the data type to whole number. I could leave it as a decimal number, but for my purposes, I would like these columns to be whole numbers. So I'll select whole number, and as I've already done these steps, I'm now just walking through them. I'll just click on the next step, and you can see that these data types have all been changed. The next step will be to create a custom column. The columns we have here so far are beginning value, inflows, outflows, and ending value. I would like to create an additional column that is the difference between inflows and outflows. We'll call it net flows. And what I'll do is create a custom column that will be inflows plus outflows. So I will click Add Column, Custom Column. I'll need my inflows, and we'll add the outflows to the inflows. Press OK, and now we have a new column called net flows. I'll change the type to a whole number, again by right-clicking, change type, whole number. I will also move this column to where I would like it to be in the table. So now we have that additional column here where we would like it in the table. For the table that we're going to create, we actually do not want the returns. We'll create a separate table for the performance. We only want the beginning balance, the flows, and the ending balance. So we will right-click and click remove, and that will remove that column. Now, we also do not want these columns set up as columns. We want the data in these columns to be in rows. So what we're going to do is highlight each of these columns, select unpivot selected column. And when we execute that step, those columns are now rows in the table. Now we're going to do a little cleanup of the descriptions within this column. The beginning value row here, we would like to change and remove some of the unnecessary text here. So I will right click on beginning value, select replace values, and what we want is just the text that says beginning value. Click OK, and we'll do the same thing with the ending value. Now that we have these descriptions edited, I'm going to move column 1 to column 3 by just sliding it over. And now I'm going to highlight this column. I'm going to select pivot. The column we're pivoting on is the one I had selected, and the column I would like to pivot is the value column. And when I pivot, now I have the time frames as columns. And so we have the beginning value for the 1 month, inception, and year-to-date time frame. Same thing for each other row. Now when I create my visualization, I'll want to sort these rows. I'm going to want the row for beginning value to be first, and then inflows to be second, and so forth. So I'm going to create a column that'll allow me to sort based on what I want my final visualization to look like. And to do that, I'll create a new column. This will be a column from examples. I'm going to highlight the column currently named attribute, and I'm going to select in the ribbon column from examples from selection. And now I'll create an index column that I will use as a sort column when I create my table. So in my table, I will want the beginning value to be the first row. I will want the inflows to be the second row, outflows, and now I have a column to determine my sort order for my table. And I'm going to rename this column index. And the last couple steps I will take is I will reorder these columns here. I want the year-to-date to be moved over and the inception column to be the last column. And I will rename these columns simply by right-clicking and selecting rename, and I'll rename each of these 3 columns. And lastly, I will just change the data type for the index column to be a whole number. Now I've completed the transformation of this table, and it's now ready to be used when we create our visualizations.